What should your resume look like? This is a question I get all the time. I'm Anne-Marie Segal. I've been an executive coach and resume writer for 10 years. Prior to that, I was an attorney for 15 years. This video series, Making Your Comeback, is directed mostly at the thousands, tens of thousands of people who have lost their jobs in the United States in spring 2025, but obviously can be more universally applicable than that. Um, I did a video on resumes prior to this. This is part two. I don't really like to show examples of resumes I've drafted because then they become the standard. So I just want to put that out there right to start. There is no one standard for resume writing. What I'm about to show you, because I will show you, a very quick snippet of a way to walk through what a resume can look like. I want to have this huge disclaimer. Um, this is not necessarily what will work best for you. So, with that said, let's proceed. So, here's an anonymous draft resume. And what you might see right away is that there's a lot of white space. I talked in the other video, this white space down here is just because it's not complete. But I talked in the video about really having the first of the two videos on resume writing, having a space where you show, I have to start this all over again. What should my resume actually look like, though? I get this question all the time. I'm Anne-Marie Segal. I'm an executive coach and resume writer. I've been doing this for 10 years. I was an attorney 15 years previously. I am going to show you a sample resume. I want to make a disclaimer. This is not necessarily how you should optimize your own resume, but I'm showing this to you to walk you through it. This is video number two of the resume videos in the Making Your Comeback series, which is for the large number, tens of thousands of people in the US in spring 2025 who've recently been laid off. Um, but it's universally applicable. And without further ado, I will share with you this anonymous draft. So I'll walk you through it. It's obviously entirely incomplete. There's very little information on here that's actually relevant to a specific job. In fact, I think I've taken it almost all out, um, other than the heading of executive leadership, which you might see here. Some resumes benefit from having different buckets of information. These may or may not be the right buckets for you. But I do want to walk you through some things about resume writing so that you can either be better about drafting your own resume, or if you do hire a resume writer, and that's a very personalized decision, that you have better criteria of what to expect. So, the first thing I would say is you want it to be clean, easy to read. The way that this is set up here with the summary and experience may or may not, again, be the best way for you to present the information. Bullet points may or may not be what speaks to you most. It's really a question of backing up, as I say often in other videos in this series, and thinking about what is it what is it that I want to convey, and how do I best convey that? And so often bullets are helpful because they are a list of different competencies, essentially skill sets. Sometimes it's better to use the text, um, the flush paragraph, meaning just writing it out here. And what I suggest you do is get feedback, to try it different ways, to think of this as an experiment, to be open-minded about this document. I mean, resumes, yes, they're stilted language. They are. And it's not something that we're used to writing on an everyday basis, but it is something you can get better at. And it is something that you are still trying to tell a story. And so it's really, how is this story best told? Sometimes there are graphics in resumes. I don't generally use them based on the types of clients that I have. Many of my clients are attorneys or board candidates. That might be entirely separate from your own experience. It may be that charts make sense, especially if you're in a field where you're talking about revenue growth. Um, Often they're a distraction, I would say. Often there's a tendency to want to use lots of bling and, make the resume really fancy, and it kind of detracts from the message. That's my personal take on it. That being said, there are in certain very creative fields ways that bringing all of that in is very helpful. So again, this is not supposed to be this is the precedent for a resume, just kind of as a framework to walk through. So what you'll also see here is an inclusion of an email, an inclusion of a LinkedIn profile, if in fact LinkedIn is relevant to you in your field, and I have an entirely different video on LinkedIn. Um, and I've put in a phone number and city, state, and zip. I do not put the home address in resumes. As a resume writer and someone plugged into that community, there's a lot of identity theft. The idea that the resume left on the printer or the copy machine, that's not as common anymore, but there is resume theft. Sorry, there is identity theft through resumes. People might copy your entire resume. I wouldn't suggest that you post it on LinkedIn for that reason. I'd be very careful where your resume gets around, and I would not put your home address. Um, but I would follow a format similar to this in the sense that you're creating, whether or not you call it a summary, you might instead put the name of the type of role that you're going for, a director role or a vice president role, or, specifics to, marketing or whatever field. Um, Instead of the word summary, you might say experience, professional experience, relevant experience. Those are not the things that I'm trying to demonstrate here. Those are to some degree interchangeable, but the idea is that you are giving the relevant information. You're not hiding the ball anywhere in terms of where you worked, et cetera. And sometimes you'll have multiple cities and states, and sometimes you'll have worked remotely, and you'll have to figure out the most elegant way to present the information. Sometimes you have multiple titles because you've played multiple roles, and you have to figure out again how to elegantly present the information across multiple roles. Every decision that you make should be in first thinking about your audience and what's going to be easy for them to understand in terms of what you did and what's going to best convey your value. So, how do you tell this story in a way that people can understand it, evaluate it, and then come to a positive conclusion that you're a compelling candidate for the role? So, those are the things that I wanted to walk you through in terms of the specifics on a resume. More than anything, as I said in the other video, you're telling a story. You're giving a through line of your career. That's what you do in the summary, most of all. Sometimes you're going to tailor it for different jobs. If you didn't listen to the other video, I talked about keywords. I would say I would mostly tailor that top section and the most recent role. Um, if your most relevant experience for your target audience, or a lot of it, is in earlier roles, that's a chance, that's something that you can bring up in the summary. That's a good use of that, meaning you can be talking about skills that you have either in the bullets or in that intro section that may not appear in your most recent role. Because honestly, the top third of your first page, we call it prime real estate in terms of resumes, that's where people are looking most. So whatever you can get, and it's a fight, right? Because what's most important, and that's something you need to think about in the context of your target audience, in the context of the big picture about your role. It takes time. It can be stressful, but it's really an important document in terms of getting you to your next role in almost every case. There are times when resumes are not needed, But in almost every case, it behooves you to spend time thinking about this document, not agonizing over it, but really just thinking of it as this is something that can give vital and valuable information about me and help me carry the day in terms of getting where I want to go next.